Hey guys, I think we should be live, so do let me know if we are or not, if everything works or not, because I mean sometimes it doesn't. And I felt like an idiot before talking to my microphone that was muted or something. So yeah, do let me know if it does work. Audio video good to hear, very, very nice. So yeah, thanks for coming by. Always happy to see that there's actually people waiting for this. So yeah, appreciate that. I do also appreciate Bybits for sponsoring the show. It's really nice of them. They've got a competition that is gonna be hosted towards the winter season. So if you wanna check that out, links in the description. And yeah, so thanks Bybit for the sponsorship. Don, you better go full bullseye in this analysis. I mean, I'll try. We'll see where it goes. You never know, right? You never know before you start. Okay, so you guys having a good evening? Everyone doing fine? Seems that way. What should happen before an altcoin run? What should Bitcoin or ETH do in your opinion? We'll talk about it. We will talk about it. Remind me later if I forget to talk about it, because sometimes I do forget. So yeah, high time frame wise, I mean, there's no need to talk about this. It's a bullish high time frame picture. Nothing to really say. We tagged the all-time high a few days ago on Coinbase, at least. Didn't manage to do so on BitMEX, doesn't really matter. Tagged it on 2 out of a few exchanges. So yeah, I mean, high time frame, there's no real resistance left. I maintain the stance that 14K was pretty much the last one, and anything from here on out, it's not based on high time frame resistance, but either if everything momentum gets in general, the market gets overheated, momentum slows down, that kind of stuff, not necessarily based on resistance lines, because there's really nothing up here, right? On the high time frames anyway. The weekly time frame, same story there. There's a reason why I've been saying like break 14K, and then I mean, there's not that much left. So what we've done, green rally. I mean, we've had one red week, and that's been it. Otherwise, just been green the entire way up. So I mean, that's promising for the bulls, right? At some point, there's gonna be a pullback, but who knows where that's gonna be. Based on the high time frames, I mean, there's not anything in regards to that I can say. Like there's not really a resistance where I'd be like, okay, I think this is it, because yeah, I mean, 20K could be that resistance that gives us the first pullback, right? But generally speaking, it's very rare that you get something like this and you double top and then you go down and it just completely collapse. Doesn't make much sense. So even if it does pull back, I mean, it's a double top, right? And historically, they haven't really performed that well. So we'll see how it all turns out. But high time frames, definitely not bearish. They're still bullish. So I mean, and that's where I get my bias from, right? So that's kind of where we're standing. And until that changes, I think, where does it change, right? If you're asking me, changes quite a bit. Like, it has to move quite a bit for that to change. I think if we start losing 14K, that'd be bearish, and that's a shitload of a move away. So not expecting that based on nothing anyway. So yeah, looking good on the high time frames. Low time frames, the daily, finally had a support lost, right? And that led to a pretty sizable pullback right into support. And then we just reversed out of it. And now we're kind of retesting it. So far this looks pretty good. The only kind of way where this wouldn't look good is if we started losing this, because then I think we'd probably go from cleanly trending up with like no breaks, no nothing, to best case choppy scenario, as in if we lose this, I mean, we've chopped this level several times. Whenever you see chop appear, probably go sideways for a while, and then I'd expect like a range in here maybe, or in general just a range, maybe even through this level, right? So you wouldn't want to lose that level, at least for the short-term bulls, because then, I mean, it's not as obvious where this is going. Could go to support, could just chop around, right? As long as that support level holds, there's nothing to worry about. The only thing that I could see is that we've taken out the high, right? So we've taken the high out. We've taken all-time high out on several exchanges, and then pulled back. So bears have now a pretty easy invalidation, because, I mean, this has been the stop run, right? And that stop run really shouldn't be taken out. So like aggressive bears might step in, see if they can kind of define their risk on that and aim for a bigger pullback. And I mean, that makes sense. It's just a little bit early, as long as that support stands in the way, right? And so far that support has been holding. So nothing too big to worry about. And then if this support gets lost again, we'll see if it turns into chop or if it turns into a major correction. The problem is, in this case, you don't really have high time frame confidence, because the high time frames, there's no levels left, right? The next support level is 14K on the high time frames. So there's not that much to do on those. And I think expecting 14K doesn't make much sense just from this break, right? Even if this broke, don't think it would just go straight to 14K. There's these two support levels in the way, right? So we'll see where it goes. But so far, nothing too terrible. Hey, I'm hyped for the show, but they're quite late and I fall asleep a lot. I'm sorry, man. Nothing we can do about it. There's a lot of people from all over the world watching, so we've tried to kind of make it the best time frame, is that the right word? Time zone, as possible. But I mean, you can't please anyone, or everyone rather. I mean, for me, it's also a little bit late. Nowadays, it's better because of the winter time, but for me, it's also late. So this is the best time for Europe. Yep, and it's the time where the Americans at least can tune in if they want to. Hey Don, how are you? How can I contact you? I have sent you a message to your Twitter account too. If it's regarding to like any paid promotions, any of that stuff, I don't really do that. If it's anything else, just try again and I'll see what I can do. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Nothing too exciting going on there. I mean, it's just been straight up, and I mean, disregarding this one pullback that went from resistance instantly in one candle to support and then went straight back up, right? Let's go to the altcoins, because I think most people, it's kind of weird, right? Bitcoin's been going up and no one's really euphoric until the altcoins go up. And that just kind of shows you where people have allocated their money. And most of the people that have like a big stake in the altcoins have not been doing, like, I mean, they've not been doing poorly. The problem is they've underperformed Bitcoin significantly, right? So, yeah. That's why I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see massive euphoria, because for some reason in the crypto space, just Bitcoin going up doesn't really do that for people. It's the moment an altcoin explodes where it gets really euphoric. And so far, at least against Bitcoin's only happened in the smaller and newer spaces like DeFi. Most have missed the rally and trying to catch up. That might be true too, but I mean, it's always been the case that, people just overvalue altcoins, I think, and undervalue Bitcoin, at least in the relationship between the two. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be reading that wrong, but I think it's a reasonable assessment. So yeah, ETH, high time frame wise, closed way above resistance. I mean, that's a bear shakeout and a half. It did that bearish retest, and then just blew straight through it. And is now approaching resistance, right? I mean, so far resistance hasn't really done too much. I mean, we've blown through this one. Pretty straightforward. We've blown through this one. And now we're approaching the next one. I think there's a good chance that we get at least a minor pullback from this level. And we'll see just what it does, right? Depends on what Bitcoin does, because I mean, this rally too is mostly just Bitcoin going up and ETH BTC just holding sideways, in my opinion anyway. So it majorly depends on Bitcoin, right? In the recent, like I see a lot of people longing Altcoin against USD, and then they're like, I mean, this is going up, so this is really great. And I mean, I get that, right? It's a good trade, but the thing is, like most of the altcoins against Bitcoin have actually underperformed. So you're longing the weaker pair. And at some point, that's obviously not going to be the case anymore, hopefully anyway. I mean, I fucking love another old season. But so far, it's not been the case. I mean, ETH's been doing pretty well in comparison to Bitcoin, but most of the other ones haven't, so yeah. Hi guys, you started without me. I mean, you're the one that's late, bro. Not my fault. Hey Dawn, what coins do you trade that you consider uncorrelated to Bitcoin or ETH? If you really want, like, there's one coin that I can think off the top of my head that isn't really correlated, and that is as boring to trade as you could think, and that is Leo. And I mean, it's actually broken out in the last few days, but this is the only like major coin that I don't really see too much of a correlation in. So yeah, I mean, if you want to trade something that's not too correlated, that's the one where it's fucking, that's not really interesting to trade. I mean, these are not small moves in the traditional sense, right? But in the crypto sense, this is nothing. So yeah, ETH, there's really like, the only way ETH would flip back bearish from this point onwards is losing 400, right? So macro wise, this is still bullish, and yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Like at this point, there's not really much TA that I can do where I'm like, okay, this is where it's gonna bounce, this is where it's gonna find resistance, just because for me, this is support, this is resistance, and this support, I mean, so far away, but could still be tested, right? But I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. If anything, I just wait for it and then get interested there again, or this resistance up here on the weekly time frame, where it might be interesting to kind of catch blow-off tops if they happen. But anything between, there's just nothing interesting there. If anything, I think the ETH BTC the ETH BTC chart is the one that is interesting, and that is the one that's actually putting in like this inverse head and shoulders trade pattern, whatever you want to call it, chart pattern. Jesus, today's been not my day, but yeah, so this putting in inverse head and shoulders, it's kind of reclaimed last week, it's kind of reclaimed this trading range that's been trading in, so it's not looking too terrible, and as long as it doesn't lose the support, yeah, I think there's some new kind of movements coming in where it's actually going up when Bitcoin's going up, which is interesting because that's not been the case before, at least when Bitcoin's at these kind of levels. So I'll keep an eye on this. I don't necessarily dislike how this is looking, as long as it can hold this trading range, right? So this week, 4 days left. This red line is one to watch. If it starts losing that again, maybe it's a fake out. I mean, you could draw this multiple kind of ways, right? You could say, okay, this is the level to watch, and then we'd still have closed at resistance. So not entirely convincing of a breakout, but it is a breakout to me so far anyway. And if it maintains that for the next 4 days, that might be an early sign that ETH BTC is actually putting in some strength. So I'm going to keep an eye on this too. Definitely interesting and much more actionable, I think, than the ETH USD chart, which is in the middle of nowhere. Even if you look at the ETH USD chart on the daily, I mean, we took out the high, dumped a little, and now where do you actually get involved? And the answer is you can't really. The only thing and the only kind of good area that you got was this. Got front run by a tiny bit, but the people that have been reading the newsletter, I mean, that's the level that we've said needs to hold. And usually when you have a level that needs to hold in the bullish trend and you kind of get near it, that's where it wicks to and then it just bounces, right? So far, it's been holding pretty well. And then I think it's the same story for pretty much all the altcoins, where you have the USD pair, even for Litecoin, just in the middle of, I mean, this is not necessarily in the middle of nowhere. It's actually, I mean, this is one of the better resistances on the chart, but still, like, I wouldn't want to take a trade based on this, just because, I mean, it's been going sideways forever. You could argue it's broken out of this range and it might confirm in the next 4 days. But then again, you would have to wait 4 days to kind of see that. And these kind of breakouts, I don't really like, right? So when you have a breakout like this, you have a range, you go sideways, and you start breaking out, and you go, and then you immediately reject, and then just chill in here. I mean, I don't know what to do of this. Like, it could be bullish that we've actually, like, that it didn't just completely crash from here, but it could also just be that no one's really trading this, and it's just doing whatever it wants to. So I don't think that's too actionable. I think the Litecoin Bitcoin pair is actually much more interesting because it's at resistance 1, but it's already tested that resistance before, right? So you have this test, that's the bearish retest. I mean, that's why I was like, ah, shit, maybe this is a bearish retest, and it broke down, and then it retested it again and broke down again, and now it's retesting it again, right? So I think this is the level to watch. If that level breaks, we could mark up and go crazy. As long as that isn't the case, I think there's not that much that you gain from being bullish into this level, because, like, let's be real, like, if this breaks out, you're losing on what, like 10% maybe, if it starts closing above there. And then this level is not going to be too much of a resistance macro wise. Like, maybe, let's say this breaks, right? Let's say this level breaks and we go back up. Maybe we get a pullback, but that's the pullback to buy. And then macro wise, there's no real reason why it wouldn't go all the way up here, right? So for me, it doesn't really make much sense to get involved into a bearish retest, even though it's like the third one of the same level, when you can just get involved a tiny bit higher with a lot less risk. It's what I've been saying for altcoins for the last 3 years. Somehow it's always kind of been the case that they've just been flat out rejected, no matter like how many tests or whatever has happened. I mean, I've pointed this out the entire way down, starting pretty much from here into resistance, rejected, and then into this resistance in here, rejected, and into this one, and we'll see how this plays out. I hope it does play out better, because I mean, that'd be just interesting to trade, but so far not happening, right? So yeah, I'd be careful on these whenever I see this, and I mean, there's a reason why people are excited about the altcoins, because the USD pairs have been going up, right? But that doesn't mean that the Bitcoin pairs have to follow. So I'm just a little bit cautious, and I don't see why I would exchange Bitcoin into altcoins when the macro situation is that Bitcoin's really interesting to a lot of rich people, and no one's really talking about altcoins, right? Double top Mao, there's no top, baby. We'll see about that, but it doesn't have to be 20K, right? I mean, I hope it doesn't turn into double top and we go, who the fuck knows where. Even though like at 14K, it'd be nice to do some action. It's the only kind of significant level that I could see where it's easy to take trades. What about good old Dogecoin? We'll talk about Dogecoin. I mean, we can talk about Dogecoin right now just because you asked. So yeah, Dogecoin, right? I've taken one trade on Dogecoin. I tried to do a big trade, tried to get filled on 15 sats. Reason for that being that 15 sats has been the cycle low for Dogecoin for a couple of times. So you can kind of see the cycle in early 17, having bottomed at 15 sats and then mega mooned. I mean, you can't even see it on the chart like this. And then same thing happened again, just a little bit later in 17, and then we mooned. And now we've hit it again, right? And if you remember, like if you've been watching the stream for a while, whenever you have a big level that has led to big moves and it hasn't been tested in a long time, usually, like let's say you have a level that does something like this, and then you test it again after like a lower cycle or whatever, you're gonna get a bounce. It's not gonna be like depending on the market, obviously. It doesn't have to be as big as the other ones, but you're most likely going to get a bounce. So I kind of expected that. Hoped for 15, had some 16 sats orders, had some 14 sats orders, only got the 16 sat orders filled, and then it bounced. And then I sold, and people were like, why the fuck are you selling? This is probably the start of all season greatness, right? So you shouldn't be selling. My reasoning is this, and I mean, I don't really, like, for some reason, like, people get really defensive when I say that, but it doesn't really matter. Like, let's say you bought the bottom here, right? It doesn't really matter if you have, like, this bottom long and you take it, like, to whatever, or if you have a long from in here and take it to wherever, right? I mean, yes, you're going to make more money if you bought the bottom and then sell the top somewhere here, right? But you're taking on more risk, one, and it's really hard to kind of guess a bottom before you actually have any kind of indication that it's actually going to be the bottom, right? So for me, the reason why I sold was that I was just seeing, okay, we're closing in onto this range, and when you're moving into a range like this, and it's obviously important to a lot of people, because I mean a lot of people bought in here and got fucked over by this dump, is, yeah, if this reclaims, it's probably gonna moon. But the difference between where I sold, which was around here, and the range is just a few percent, right? So I mean, the difference between here and there, like 20%, right? That's what you're missing out on, but you kind of don't have the giant risk of just it being a bearish retest, right? And so far it's been a bearish retest, so the caution has paid off. And I mean, I could just get back in, and I mean, I pocketed a nice, I think it's like 25% move-ish, 25 to 30%. Yeah, 30%. And then I can just try again. But I'm not really too interested. I might actually get in again on 15 sats, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll see when we get there, or if we get there. Otherwise, just gonna rebuy in this range, right? Because then we actually have a setup to play, which is you have a range, you fail the range, you get back into the range, you know exactly, okay, it never should go back below like my end, like not below the entry, but below the shakeout, which would be this down here, if it does go back up. So you kind of know where to place your risk, you know, everything, right? If you're just buying here at 15 sats and you're stopping out at where? Like, where exactly are you looking to exit that trade if you're wrong? Because I wouldn't know. Like, I have no idea what to do below 15 sats if I'm in a position from like 18, 19, 20, 21. Like, what do you do? Do you stop out into 13, 12, 11, 10 into the panic of people that you normally would want to buy? I don't know. I don't want to be in that position. So I'd much rather just play it cautious, even more so given that we've been in a huge bear market for altcoins. So that's kind of my reasoning for that. You don't have to agree with it. And I know it is much cooler if you can flex your bottom long on people. But I mean, yeah, you're paying for that privilege of flexing. And I'm not in the business to flex. I'm in the business to make money. So yeah, that's my kind of view on the Dogecoin. You don't have to agree with it. It's just my personal kind of style of trading. I try to kind of take what I'm given on the altcoins, and most of the time you're not given much. So yeah. Someone in the chat is complaining about me calling hacks a scam, so just angry. Yeah, dude, just jog on. I'm really not interested in talking about it. Shit's fucked. Do you not regard DeFi's potential similar to that of the narrative that rich people are now buying Bitcoin? I don't really see where the entire narrative of rich people buying Bitcoin is that it's a better gold, and DeFi does none of that. I don't think people are looking for a better financial system, like the people with money that made their money in the financial system. I mean, it's really interesting, and but yeah, I don't think there's like the same narrative that Bitcoin has applies to DeFi. It's definitely interesting. There might be something in there that isn't trash, that is really cool. But I'm not smart enough to judge that, so I don't. Doug, let's talk about your hate against Link. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So yeah, I've been hating on Link for, oh geez, it's been ages now. So when was it where I started hating on Link? Let me pull up this is where I started hating on Link. And then I took it all the way to support. And then I was saying I'm shorting $15 again. Shorted $15 again. And so far in profit, still hodling. Gave back a few percent. The thing with Link, like with my Link position in general, is that it's a pretty nice hedge for me, because I mean Bitcoin's at 19K, right? And I got a pretty nice price for my Link, short. I'm still paid funding, by the way, so I'm just chilling in this position, hedging parts of my Bitcoin without having to actually short Bitcoin. So if this stops me out, and I mean my new stop basically break even like a cunt, so be it. It's hedging my Bitcoin, so not all of it. I should probably be short Link more, but it is what it is, right? So yeah, first time shorted Link was like, this is the complacency whatever top here, and turned out to be true, right? And now I'm still making the same play, saying this is the complacency top of the macro view. So we're in this still, and so far it's played out. Is it gonna play out in the future? Who the fuck knows, right? I don't. If it isn't, right? If it isn't this, how is that kind of, how would that look like? And that would look like, let's say we start moving up there again, then it wouldn't be this, then obviously something else, and that'd be out, right? So that's kind of my Link view. It's pretty basic, just shorted resistance. And if you want to see the resistance that I shorted, it's just the 3-day resistance, because that's been the nicest to trade on Link. I mean, even here on the bottom, perfect kind of retest, and then a bounce, right? So bounce from support into resistance, and that's just kind of where I took the trade. And I could still see it play out, but doesn't have to. I'm happy if it does, I'm happy if it doesn't, because I mean, this is just taking a little bit of just chilling and not hedging Bitcoin off of my shoulders, because I mean, I'm getting antsy like at the thought of seeing Bitcoin go back to 14K without being hedged. But I don't really want to short Bitcoin, because there's no real reason to, right? Like there's no setup here. So I'm just looking for the weaker ones, and Link has been much weaker than Bitcoin has. It's even close below weekly resistance, or what was supposed to be support, which didn't. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it just makes a lot of sense to kind of short the weak thing and be long the strong thing. I mean, I'm not long the strong thing. I'm just exposed to it because my trading balance is based in Bitcoin. And so far it's been working. I mean, it's gonna stop at some point probably, but until then, just gonna keep it going. He is biased about Link. Even if Link goes to 100, you think Link's going to 2. Dude, like, that's the funny thing, right? I'm saying my invalidation is up here, right? 15. Take it. And then not gonna have a view on Link. I haven't had a view on Link for the longest time. And now I've made money on it once. And I'm trying to do it again. If it doesn't work this time, it doesn't work, right? And if you want to see the last time I did it, just go back, like, Jesus, how long has that been? It's on this channel, so you can check it out again. 100 days ago. Just go through the video that I made 100 days ago, or like 95 days ago. So, I mean, I don't really care what Link does or what it's supposed to do or what it could do in the future. I just trade it. And I mean, if that's going against what you believe in, you don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to copy trade. You don't have to agree, right? It's just a trade for me, nothing more. And if it's more for you, I mean, nice. If you've taken this rally and you've been fortunate enough to believe in it all the way, I mean, good for you, right? Why be angry? What about good old Neo? Still interested in it? It broke some supports that I didn't want to see broken. Let me actually see where is it in my list? There it is. So I said last time we talked about this, and I think it's been a long time since we've talked about Neo, I said really shouldn't break this because then it's a shakeout above the range. And that's played out, right? It's broken that. I hoped it wouldn't, but it did. So now it's broken that. It's broke this range too. Whoops. It's broke this range too. So yeah, I think it's a little bit in trouble. I don't really see why it would outperform Bitcoin. I mean, it could, right? It's just I don't see a setup to play for it or a setup that would interest me in trading it. Well, I would expect it to outperform Bitcoin. I mean, you could say this is like this kind of weird triple range. This the midpoint of the range, top of the range. Let me actually make this green. I mean, it's red actually. It should be red. This should be red also. So you have this range, right? And you could argue, okay, this is the midpoint of the range, and you could play from support to resistance. But I mean, even then, like you're playing from support to resistance, would you want to long past that resistance? I wouldn't, right? Really shouldn't have broken that resistance, like that support here. That was a significant break of structure. So it really shouldn't have done that. So if it goes back up there, it's more interesting as a short than it as a long. I generally don't like shorting altcoins too much unless they've just gone like this. Because I mean, altcoins usually do this, and then they do like literally what I talked about on Link. Link might be an outlier. Link might not play this, but in general, they tend to do it. That's why I'm kind of making a bet on Link doing it again, but could obviously be wrong. And if I am, just gonna get out and just see where it goes. But yeah, I don't really see a reason for this to outperform. It's at support. This is resistance. So I mean, if you want to make a play, you could make a play from support to resistance. But so far, the bounce really not been strong. So nothing too exciting for me anyway. Like what you have to be thinking about, right, when you're buying this, is you're exchanging Bitcoin for Neo, and Neo is not looking to in that kind of exchange, right? Neo's been this is a bear market, right? Bear market into sideways. You could argue, okay, sideways, just a basing formation, just gonna reverse it. But so far, there's not been an indication, right? It's been more of an indication that this is actually probably gonna break to the downside because it's tried to break to the upside here and then failed that. And that's usually the worst thing that you can see happen when you have like a trend like this, go sideways, and then you give people hope and then you crush that hope. Because then, I mean, the trend's still down. You've now trapped people thinking that it's gonna break to the upside, and then the chance of this going down lower is higher than the chance of it going higher. So not too big of a fan, but then again, like in comparison to some of the other altcoins, this has actually performed quite well. I mean, we can actually pull this up. Neo BTC against, whoops, excuse me, EOS BTC. It's something I like to do when I want to see the relative strength of a coin. And for example, against EOS, like the Neo holders have been doing pretty well, right? From the bottom to the top, it's up quite a bit in comparison to EOS, just not in comparison to Bitcoin. So there's definitely some strength there. If you compare it to ETH, and I mean, if you want to do that, you can just do that on your own, check like different altcoins. And you can kind of see the trajectory there. It's just been down for a long time. So it's underperformed ETH, it's underperformed Bitcoin, but it's performing stronger than some of the other altcoins. And I mean, that's a good info to have, I think, because generally speaking, you want to be interested in the strength, not in the weakness. So agreed, from a TA point of view, it doesn't look great. From an FA point of view, might even look worse. No idea about what's happening with Neo. I mean, I've been involved with Neo in 17. As in involved, I've just knew everything about it. And then the best part about like being a trader is you're one of the people in the Telegram or whatever, and then you meme while it's going up, and then the moment it turns to shit, you just abandon the project. As harsh as that sounds, I mean, that's like what keeps you sane. If you're just stuck with the bags in the crypto market, it's just drives you insane, right? And I mean, that's what we've been seeing from a lot of people. It's just major illusions. Kind of comes from being stuck in something that just keeps going down while other things go up, right? And I mean, we all learn that kind of lesson at some point in the crypto market. I was fortunate enough to learn it during we've had an old season, then it went back down, and then we had the bigger old season and was like 17, right? So I learned it during this part and was fortunate enough to take this entire part with me. But a lot of people learned it in this part, which was 18 and 19. And that's obviously less fun. Is that gonna turn into the same kind of thing again where we just repeat the cycle? I don't know. I think altcoins look much worse than it did in 17. But some of them have bounced really nicely from the lows of 17. For example, XRP. So if you look at XRP, that's been a cycle and a half. It's actually kind of crazy how often this has worked. So 17 lows here, at least late 17 lows, and it's bounced from here again. That's why I was originally so interested into this in this level. Didn't quite get there, but this is the reason. It's the same as Dogecoin. If you remember, like cycle, same kind of level. You're gonna get at least a bounce. This is a little bit more than a bounce. This is a giant move. So where is that gonna go? I have no idea. I would want to see, I think where it accelerates, if it can accelerate. And something that you have to be a little bit careful of is XRP has this tendency to just kind of bleed all the gains it's made back out. I think the moment it starts accelerating is where it gets rid of this resistance level. If it can do that, I think there's some merit to saying, okay, we're gonna get a big altcoin bounce. It's kind of like this, right? It's the same level, and in 17, what it did was it rallied into the level, rejected, and then went really hard the next week. So far, we haven't seen any of that. So we rallied into the level, rejected, and we haven't seen the big rally that comes after, or that did come after. So far it's not really mirroring the price action. But I think the moment we start breaking this level, if it does break the level, that would be where it starts mirroring the entire left side again. And I'd wanna be along for that, right? Until then, where's the next support? Like if you're looking for XRP entries, I think this is the next support. So I mean, we're kind of in it. Bottom of that range, maybe. That'd be interesting. If it does lose that, I would expect it to start just bleeding out. But so far it's been holding. So might be worth a punt. I'm still thinking about it, but I could see myself take a shot at it and then see where it goes. Do you think ETH will pump as good as last cycle? I mean, compared with the USD pair, it's done an incredible move already. Some people are just like, I mean, ETH from $1 to $1,000, right? Is very different from ETH from $100 to $100,000 or like $10,000. Like that's a magnitude higher, right? The thing is, like, I mean, people have been saying that about Bitcoin for ages now, right? The pump from 1 to 100 isn't the same as from 100 to whatever, to 10,000. But so far it's been doing that. The question is, like, at some point it gets unrealistic, right? And I wouldn't expect it to just quadruple whatever at a higher market cap. But I mean, who knows? If Bitcoin keeps going, I could see ETH keep going as well. It's just rides on Bitcoin's shoulders, and I still maintain that belief. But if it starts outperforming Bitcoin, and I mean, there's a setup here, just has to take it, right? I mean, if huge ETH buyers start showing up, start pushing this up towards the middle or to the top of that range, I mean, then you could actually see it outperform Bitcoin meaningfully. Besides like this deviation, right? Because in the end, this was sideways, and then it deviated below that range and now back in that. So, I mean, it's just basically sideways since the low set in 18. If it actually wants to meaningfully outperform Bitcoin, it would have to break these and then maybe go for this. And then, yeah, you're going to see big moves, but just not like times 10, times 100 moves. I think that's a tall order. I don't think that's going to happen. But then again, I mean, I've said I don't think 800 is going to happen. And I mean, yeah, we're pretty close to it already. So who knows, right? With these kind of crazy moves, when Bitcoin goes crazy, anything can happen. So if it keeps going crazy, who knows where ETH is going to go. So yeah. I think like the ones that I'm watching, just because they have such an easy setup, is like Dogecoin, XRP is another one, just because I mean XRP is XRP, right? There's a reason why I've been talking about XRP for the last 3 years, because if it moves big, and those are the easiest ones. I think Litecoin is also easy because I mean there's just only this resistance in the way, and then I think it can have a nice move to the upside. The saddest part about all of this is that based on the fact that we have like a USD pairs now, who knows if the Bitcoin parts actually start like going ham, or if it's just going to be the USD pairs, which just means even more correlation with Bitcoin, which would suck. Law of large numbers, exactly. The bigger the number gets, the harder it is to push up, right? And people are going to use that fact and say, haha, XRP, moon, small number. It's not what it means. But yeah, I'm also looking at BAT, and the crazy thing is, like, right, we've seen these altcoin bounces and people are really excited about them. But so far there's nothing. Like, there's nothing there. It's just endless downtrend into, I mean, this is so far it's sideways, right? You can barely see these moves. Some of the coins have bounced a little harder. So far it's only been a bearish retest. So, I mean, I want to see this smash this resistance. And the moment it starts smashing that resistance, then I'm actually going to think, okay, there might be a bigger move in play. And I mean, the bigger move, I mean, this would be a little bit unfortunate if that was the bigger move, just all the way back to resistance. But in my opinion, this resistance has been tested a bunch of times, right? So let's say this resistance down here, this green box that should be red, gets broken. I mean, I wouldn't bet on this holding again. So if it gets back in here, I mean, at least two up here, if not up here, if not up here, would make sense to me. So it's the same situation as Dogecoin, right? Why would I want to greed for this move, which is 25%, whatever, if I can take this move with not even half the risk? Because I mean, so far it's a bearish retest, right? So you're belonging into a bearish retest on an asset that's been trending down for 3 years, which is fine to do if you're like so bullish, but I don't think that risk is worth it. Like 20% isn't worth that risk, I think. Where it does get worth it is if it does reclaim that, and then I mean, even if you're saying, okay, I'm catching it way above that support level, and if you take it up there, that's a nice times 2.5 ish. That's where the trade is, not in those 20% here where it's a bearish retest technically, in my opinion anyway. If you want to take it from here, it's fine to do. I mean, I don't really care. It's just, for me, it doesn't make much sense. Then again, like, it's probably best, like if you're a giga bull on these things, I mean, you can just take along here and then stop out if it takes out the low. But I think, I mean, if you've done that for the last 3 years, you've not had any time and not any fun. And there's a good chance you're not going to have any fun either at that point. Oh shit, thought Don was drunk for a second. Just caught back up to life. It's happened to me before where I've talked in chat and I'm like, what the fuck are they? What the fuck is the chat talking about? I don't understand. And then just realized that I'm like behind 5 minutes. Bitcoin Cash still hasn't moved yet. Bitcoin Cash looks absolute trash. This looks complete garbage. Like, I mean, this is literally where people get excited every single time. This looks garbage. It could turn into something great, and I hope it does. But this looks garbage, and no one can convince me otherwise. And the thing is, and this is why I keep talking about the Bitcoin pairs, and people keep nagging me about it. You see this chart, right? And you know, okay, this is pretty fucked up. And then you look at the Bitcoin USD pair, and you're like, holy shit! I mean, this is pretty nice. Like, and I mean, yes, it is, and yes, this could easily go up. The thing is, this has looked decent for the last 250 days. So you're stuck in this for the last 250 days. You've gained 40%. It's all on the back of Bitcoin. And what did Bitcoin do in those 250 days? I mean, a little bit better, right? And then the risk on Bitcoin Cash is much higher than on Bitcoin. So you're just sitting in something that is complete. And I mean, on the Bitcoin pair, you can see why it's trash. Because it's just clearly trending down. But on the USD pair, you can't, right? Because on the USD pair, you're just like, this is a range. This is a good trade. And I mean, yes, it is. But in comparison to other places to trade, it's just really bad. I mean, your target is fulfilled, right? If you bought down here, stop loss down here, target up here, I mean, you might have not even gotten filled. This is Coinbase Wick. But yeah, your trade played out, but you missed out on so much more on other pairs. And that is, I think, the danger of the USD pair. So if you're looking at the USD pair, please do look at the Bitcoin pair as well. At least make it so that you kind of have a confluence between the two, because yeah, this kind of happens all the time. Not looking to spam, but been holding fill backs since ICO, so would appreciate a few on it. We can look at it, just because you asked so nicely. Jesus. So solid downtrend, right? There's not really much history there. Yeah, let's look at the Bitcoin pair first. So far what it's done, right? And I mean, it's downtrending since since it's come out anyway. And then it partially retested resistance and then sold off. Where does it get interesting again? It's above this resistance, right? So far, it's just putting in a base. Could go sideways, could go up, could go down. With these kind of things, you never know, right? Excuse me. Like, this is just a base. That base breaks, you might get the shakeout before the reversal, before up. But the thing is, you don't know. It could just keep on trending down. And I mean, if it's done here, the same thing, right? So you just don't know. The moment it starts reclaiming this, you at least can assume that this was the shakeout and that this was the base that actually was accumulation, whatever. Goes back up here, and then you have a nice floor that got broken, that got reclaimed, and then maybe you go up. But until then, on the Bitcoin pair anyway, it's just trending down. There's nothing to see on this pair. You could make a bet on this being the bottom range, and I mean, those sometimes work. It's not an educated guess. It's just a guess, in my opinion. And then you can look at the USD pair. It's obviously gonna be one. It didn't even go up or down or anything really. On the USD pair, this is the interesting resistance. I think that's kind of what it's been struggling with. So reclaimed that, tried to hold it, failed, and then retested. So the USD pair, as always in recent days, just because Bitcoin is so strong, doesn't actually look too bad in comparison to Bitcoin pair anyway. But even there, you would want to see it back above 33, 34. And I know that doesn't really help someone that's stuck in that back. But I mean, that's the problem, right? When you have, like when I'm like, I want to be interested in this above this and this level. It's just because then I actually have an idea what it's doing or why it's doing what it's doing. Like most of the time, I have no idea what this is going to do, right? I look at this chart and I know it's gotten rejected from resistance, but that's all I know, right? I don't know what that's going to, like how this is going to play out. The moment it starts actually breaking, and I mean, I think this is still better on the Bitcoin pair, better to see anyway. The moment it starts breaking that resistance, I know that I can at least make a thesis, right? I can make the thesis of this has been accumulation down below, and now we're marking back up, and we're probably one gonna squeeze the shorts, and two, we're not gonna give anyone else an entry, because why would we? And then it can go up, and that is much easier to kind of get invalidated on, and it just be like, okay, I have no idea. Like let's say you get into it here, and then it actually starts losing support. Then you're like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's just not time yet. And you take a paper cut. In this case, let's say this goes down, like, and I bought in here. Where do I place anything really? Where's my theory wrong? If it takes out the low, maybe, but then like, do you stop out the moment it starts trading below that level, or do you stop out the moment it starts closing below that level? If that's the case, like, what do you do if it just like teleports below the level? Because that's often the case when it actually loses big support. Like, you don't know, and it's really hard to trade that kind of situation. Whereas when you have an actual plan, actual idea, it's much easier. And then you actually have some confidence in yourself. In this case, I don't really see too much that would give me confidence. So. What do you think about fear greed being at 92? I said when we were at the lows that I don't really that I don't really subscribe to the fear greed indicator too much. I'm saying it's the same thing at the highs. That indicator can stay high, and it's the same with RSI, right? You have an RSI indicator and people are like, this is overbought, and then we can actually look at that. So we go on the weekly chart for Bitcoin. Let's take a long one. Bitfinex has enough history, right? So we turn on the RSI, and it's the same thing with fear and greed index and everything else, right? This is why I don't like them too much. For at least something like this, right? If you're saying, oh, this is overbought, this is oversold, right? It's overbought here at $700, right? It's overbought in here at, where's that? At 1,000. Then it's overbought again at 1,400. Overbought in here at 2,700, whatever, right? This entire thing, like if you start being bearish here, because it's starting to get overbought, you're missing out on the biggest part of the rally, and it never goes back below or like to your entry or whatever. Like you missed out on 70% of the move. If you start getting bearish here because it starts getting overbought, it just started the move. It's at 1.2K and it went all the way up here, more than doubling in the overbought condition before it pulled back. It's always easy, like that's why you see like all these people on YouTube and on Twitter and everywhere to kind of say, okay, look at this, the RSI peaked and it went down. But that's only so in hindsight, right? Because you don't know where this line, like it's gonna look overbought here too if you don't have this history. And I mean, we can look at this. Probably, I think that should work, right? Yeah, so at this point, you're like, okay, this has just spiked hard. It's starting to get overbought. It's probably going to go down, right? No, it doesn't have to. And then now it's still overbought. And you're like, oh, but now it has to go down. And then you get a wick like all the way to 800. And then it goes down. But now it's down. But really, like, you missed out on the entire move. And it goes back up again. And now, like, at this point, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this was overbought. I was promised a big move to the downside. It just keeps going up, right? So, I mean, and this might not even be the best example, but you get my point, right? Stuff can stay overbought and or oversold for a long time. I mean, this is just like the biggest rally here, and it's pretty much all in, like, or most of it in overbought conditions. Even here, right? Let's say you get bearish in this entire thing. It just doesn't make sense. So, I mean, if you're playing like divergences, whatever, fine, right? I think that's fine to do. But like the overbought, oversold, or like the fear greed thing, yeah, I don't know. I don't like it can stay like that for ages, and then you're just stuck sitting there. Yeah. Just my personal opinion on it. If it helps you, if you have like a system around it, if you're like, okay, if the RSI or the fear greed index or a million other things are at this point, and I see a bearish signal, I'm gonna take it. I mean, that's fine, right? But if you just blindly rely on it, I think that's a dangerous thing to do. What about Bollinger Bands? I mean, our good old Bollinger called the top here. It went down afterwards. So, I mean, if this is the top, it's gonna be, I'm gonna say Bollinger called it, right? And if it isn't, it's the same kind of situation. But yeah, Bollinger Bands are pretty cool, I think. It's not something I use, but it's pretty cool. So realistically, it's a case of timing the market versus timing the market. I mean, it all depends, right, on your system around it. But yeah, it's not as simple as, okay, this is overbought, so I'm selling it, and it's oversold, so I'm buying it. It's just not how it works. The biggest gains are mostly made in overbought conditions, and the biggest losses you're gonna get are gonna be in oversold conditions, even if you buy in. So yeah. Someone asked about Uni, so let's take a look at Uni. Oh yeah, I remember that. I don't know what this was for, but I remember that. So it's actually funny. Like, I remember discussing this with friends in here, and I was like, this looks like it's gonna just blow right through resistance. And then it did, and that was the top. And now it's retested again and again. It's not looking too bad in my opinion. Like, this is looking much, much stronger, but it's USD pair again than in the past. So yeah, this, I mean, technically lost the range, regained the range, retested the range. I mean, it's ranging, right? So took out the low, took out the high. So what are you gonna do? Like, if you bought the bottom, you usually sell the top and then just see where it goes. If you're bullish on the altcoin market, or like on Uniswap, or like in general on the DeFi stuff, I mean, you can just keep it from your entry. But generally speaking, it's at the range high and retesting. So, I mean, could go down, could go up. These kind of situations, I would just play the range. For me, it just makes the most sense. When you have a clear-cut range like this, fake out to the upside, fake out to the downside, I would just play the range. But one thing that I want to say in these kind of situations, like the fake out to the upside and the breakdown, I favor a move below the range, and the opposite is true, obviously, on the other side, right? So when the most recent move is a fake out to the downside, I'm expecting a move be above the range. And when the most recent move is a fake out to the upside, I'm expecting a move below the range, right? So in this case, the recent move is this one, a shakeout to the downside. So I could see this squeezing past the range boundary. But the risk, like the risk-defined trade, and is from range low to range high. But in general, I mean, I wouldn't be trying to short at that range high. If anything, just take profit from longs. Just because, yeah, it doesn't matter who's trapped, right? And these people are trapped and fucked if it moves higher. These already got ran over by this move. So it's kind of like people long the breakout and got wrecked by the breakdown. And then people shorted the breakdown and got wrecked by the new up move. So it's kind of like everyone gets wrecked, and this is a range. On the Bitcoin pair, I don't actually know how the Bitcoin pair looks. Yeah, technically, this is a move down into consolidation. So technically, you would expect on the Bitcoin pair a move lower. But it's not looking too bad. Like, I don't think this is looking too terrible. But I don't like trading the things that are like where I don't have too much history, because in this case, like, where does this go? It's not bouncing from anywhere. It's not bouncing to anywhere. You could maybe target up here, right, as like a play from nowhere to resistance, but you can't play support to resistance because there's nothing there. I mean, you would have to make up stuff, right? Which, I mean, if you absolutely have to trade this, I mean, this would be the stuff that I would make up. This is support, this is resistance. I mean, if you're mega bullish on it, this is the play that you're can make. For me, that is a little bit pulled out of my ass. Like, I think there's a better kind of chance at looking at it like something like this, move down into sideways, and then you would expect it to follow the trend, the recent one. But yeah, depends on your kind of outlook. If you mega bullish this, I think the from support to resistance play makes sense. Even more so given that you now have, like down here, you have an invalidation. Really shouldn't close back below this lowest close. Oh, some people asked about the range. For me, like how I draw this stuff, and I know a lot of people disagree, and are gonna disagree with this. I just draw it like it makes most sense to me. So in this case, why did I draw it from, like, why did I say this is the range low and then this is the range high, right? And the reason for that is we've taken out that low, that high that led to the low. You could obviously also say it like this. You could make it like this. And I think that's fine to do as well. Both of them are fine. The only reason why my first instinct was to go for the high is that all the moves that kind of had any meaning on this chart have kind of come after taking out that high, right? So, I mean, you've had this move that led to the low, and then you had this move that led to the next low. Then you had the breakout above the range into this that led to the move down. And then if you kind of compare that to this, you had a wick above that level, nothing happened. Then you had a wick above the level, and then it sold off, but it still had a wick up here, still had a wick up here, still had a wick up here. So this is a little bit less accurate, but it all depends. I mean, you can draw it like textbook like. I mean, normally I take the close and the close, but when I see, okay, this just makes more sense to me, like it just looks better, just responds better to that level, I just rather take that. I don't really think you have to have, like, if you want to have like very, very strict rules on how you kind of do this kind of stuff, you're better off just articulating it and make it into a bot, right? Because then it's always the same, right? But the kind of the good thing about, or like the one thing that you have to do as a trader is kind of interpret what you have in front of you. And I think, like, for me, it just works out better if I just look at the chart and see what's important, what's not, at least to me anyway. So there's differences in every chart. I just look at what I think is most important, what led to the biggest moves, what kind of looks the cleanest, so I know where to kind of take my trades. Where did you learn your TA, self-taught or school? I want to make a joke about like going to art school, but no, that's not the case. Self-taught. Like I watched a lot of stuff, watched a lot of other people do it, and then just took from them what I thought made most sense, and then over the years adapted that to what made most sense to me and what just worked the best. So it's kind of a mix of everything. Like I was in a forex trading course, whatever, for a while. Looked at that, saw a bunch of nonsense and a little bit of good stuff. Then I moved on, looked at other people's stuff, saw a bunch of crap, and then a little bit of good stuff. Took that and then just compiled it all and made what I use now. So yeah, that's kind of how I think this entire thing makes the most sense. So that's how I'm doing it. But yeah, I think that's enough for today. We'll go over some more stuff next week, maybe. I mean, I'm gonna be there with Fred on Friday, maybe, but probably we're gonna have a guest. I don't know if we're gonna have a guest, but there's a good chance that we will. So you'll have to wait for my analysis for another week. But I think that's fine. You're gonna manage. I mean, you know how I draw my stuff. Just try it out yourself. See where it lands you. See where it gets you. I mean, everyone starts somewhere, right? It's the best way to learn is by doing it yourself. So try that. Before I end the stream, big shout out to Bybit for sponsoring it. Really appreciate their support. And big shout out to you guys. Really appreciate your support as well. Sticking with me every Wednesday. Really appreciate it. And you guys make it fun. Otherwise, it'd be pretty boring speaking to an empty audience. So I really appreciate you guys coming by and chatting. And even the people that don't chat and just listen. Also appreciate you guys. So yeah, thanks for coming by. See you guys next Friday. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.